Well, Catherine Field was the Berlin correspondent for the Observer newspaper when the wall came down. She joins us live from Paris. And so you were there. You witnessed what took place. Could you just take us back in time to what it was like and the feeling and the emotion around you?
It was absolutely extraordinary. We were driving back into East Berlin. We'd been up north of Berlin to various demonstrations that were going up there. And we drove back through what is now known as Prenzlauer Berg, a working-class suburb. And it was literally like going through a film set because people were hanging out of their windows, running out of doors. There was just people everywhere. It was like something out of a cartoon, really. And people were banging on our car doors saying, please take us to Friedrichstraße, which was the main crossing point to be able to get the train into West Berlin. And so we just put these people in the car. We drove to the Friedrichstraße station. And I remember there were just thousands of people there trying to get through. And the people that we'd given a ride to the station to said, we don't know what's going to happen. Are the troops going to shoot at us? What's going to meet us when we get there? And we said, we really don't know. We're in such uncharted territory. And so they went off. We gave them all our Deutschmarks that we had. And we said, have a good time in West Berlin. And after that, I went up the road to what was then Invalidenstraße, not far from Friedrichstraße. And there were all these East Berliners who'd just come out onto the street. They'd seen on the West German television that the wall was open, they'd be able to get there. And there were literally tens of thousands of people just walking across, some taking across in their car. And on the other side were all these West Berliners who had bottles of champagne. They were giving them Deutschmarks to go shopping and just welcoming them. And it was a night, I don't think I'll ever have a night with so much euphoria, because after that there was still time to get to the Berlin Wall at the Brandenburg Gate and climb on top and just feel that emotion that after 28 years.
Do you know what, Catherine, on that note, on that note, we actually, we have the photograph, the image of you there, and you definitely, the expression on your face reflects the emotion of the night, I guess. And I'm struck by what you say about some of the people that you were picking up on the car and taking there to the wall by their excitement and almost like their desperation. And I suppose now it's really difficult to remember or to imagine what it was like for citizens, for people living in East Germany before the wall came down. Can you describe it for us? I'm not sure how much time you spent there, but I imagine it was just like the West didn't exist.
Well, a lot of people knew a lot about the West because West German television was beamed into East Germany. And unless you lived in an area around Dresden, you picked up West German TV. And most people did watch West German TV simply because East German television was just this, stodge of Communist Party propaganda all the time. Life was very difficult in East Berlin and in East Germany because you didn't have any of the freedoms that we now associate with. They couldn't watch whatever television they wanted. They couldn't choose which schools, couldn't choose their friends. And every time that you made a telephone call, you knew as soon as you picked up that telephone that there was probably a high chance that someone would be listening at the state security. You have to always remember that East Germany had a very, very precise and determined secret service. So they were not only listening to your telephone calls, they were watching who you met. They were seeing who you were talking to. The whole time you were under some sort of surveillance. So even simple things like you're deciding which school your child was going to go to, that was up to the party officials to decide. So it was such a different world, the one that nowadays we find it so difficult to believe that it lasted so long in Eastern Germany, given that, as you were saying, just there was West Berlin, a fabulous city that was open, had nightclubs, bars, everything you wanted was in West Berlin, and yet just a couple of hundred meters away there was East Berlin, dour, no freedom of speech, no freedom of movement, nothing.
Right, and you described there the celebration and the euphoria when this event took place, and we were just seeing in Dominic Kane's package that there is now perhaps a sense of frustration, perhaps the mood is more subdued on this 30th anniversary as expectations, there's a sense that expectations were not fulfilled, and yes, the wall might have physically come down, but a divide very much still exists when you look at employment or unemployment, when you look at wages, the economy, quality of living, there is still a difference, right, between East and West. So I'm just wondering if you're in touch with people who are there now and how they feel.
Well, one of the big problems was that the East German economy was not only centralised, but it was also involved in some of the industries that now just literally do not make money or are environmentally unsound. For example, the coal mining industry in the east of Eastern Germany, that's closing down. It's all the coal mines are being run down and workers are being laid off. So you're getting some of these people who, that was the only job they knew. They were trained for that job. On top of that, when the wall came down, particularly in Eastern Germany, a lot of the people that first left were young women who'd been well educated within the state system. They went west, they never came back. So you're getting whole areas, particularly in eastern part alongside the Polish border, for example, where there are just no women. You have men aged between, say, 50 and 70 who've never been married because all the women went west. So they're not only alone, they're also finding it very difficult because a lot of the industries that they were trained to work in as young workers are just not existing anymore. So they are frustrated. They feel as though they're left behind, and they're finding it difficult to think that the next generation will have it any easier.
Thank you very much, Catherine Field, for sharing your thoughts and reflections on that historic night with us.